Welcome to Real as Possible, where two sisters keep it real with hilarious stories from our childhood and honest conversations about faith, life, and everything in between.
Welcome to Real as Possible podcast. We are tired. We are so tired.
So tired.
As we say it, Ashley does not say it. We are bushed.
Yeah.
You guys have to tell us how many people actually say that, because we say it, but you've never heard of it.
You say it. I don't say it.
A lot of people say bushed. Bushwhacked. What do you say?
I'm freaking tired. I'm spent. I say that one. I'm spent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I no longer have a uterus. Update. That's gone. So there's a reason why I'm saying this. And that's why I'm tired, because I think it's really just I'm not even on week 2 yet. Tomorrow will be week 2. And it was a crazy, it was good. It was, everything happened as it should have happened. They put they put nerve blocks in my back, and all I remember is she was like, we're gonna give you, because I was afraid to ask if I've never had this before. I've never had any nerve blocks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I didn't know if you could feel when they put a nerve block in, and they're like, no, we give you this really nice medicine.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. That.
Were you asleep when they put it in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Not I wasn't intubated to sleep. I was in twilight medicine. They gave you a little bit of that twilight stuff, because once that thing hit my veins, I was just out. And then I just remember them saying roll her to her side so then they could get the block in my back. And then I don't remember anything from there, except I dreamt that I was a hobbit. And I remember just saying, all I want is I want to be in the Shire, and I want to be reading my books, and I just want to be like I was a hobbit. And then they woke me up, and I said that to them. I said that to the nurses.
Take me back to the Shire.
I did. I was like, I was a hobbit. And she's like, you were? And I was like, yeah, but I could do without the hairy feet. And then I remember having that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back to Twilight Land. And then I remember them saying they were going to either they moved me to the operation table, or I stood up and moved myself, but I don't remember much. And then no, that's how it happened. They moved me.
They move you. They usually will.
I don't think they allow you to. I couldn't even think. I wasn't even awake or anything.
I don't think they allow you to.
And then they did
if
intubate. You can. I was scared of that. I was scared of being intubated. I don't know why. It just sounds like a really scary word.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but I didn't, my friend, she was intubated not too long ago, and she said her throat hurt for a little bit afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was fine. I was fine. So honestly, the worst part of the whole entire thing has probably been once those nerve blocks came off, they start to fade after 48 hours. I was in so much pain where they put the nerve blocks. That's interesting to me, because they're supposed to relieve pain, but they gave me so much.
I don't know if Liam ever felt that, because Liam had a nerve block with his surgery.
Well, Joe said that because I asked Joe, I said, did they struggle getting the nerve block in? And
they did with Liam the second time.
And I guess Joe overheard them talking to each other, and one of the nurses said, you keep putting it in her muscle. And so I asked Joe, I'm like, was it my right side? And it was my right side. It still hurts to this day. It's been 2 weeks, but it still is really sore. But also the hardest part is just you have to relax. You can't. You're limited. I can only lift 10 pounds. But I can slowly bring in some of my daily things. And she was like, just don't don't mop and do the laundry. You have to do, kind of slowly do it. And I'm just not very good at that. And today I'm feeling it. I'm really feeling that I didn't take care of myself very good today.
Yeah.
So tomorrow is probably going to be more of a restful day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just tired because it's springtime.
Yeah.
I just want to be outside doing stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
I went from like walking.
And in Wisconsin, you're just like, you need to take that.
Yeah.
Because the next day we're going to have a blizzard.
Yeah. You just never know. You never know.
Mm-hmm. With a hurricane.
So, I'm good though. I feel like happy about I have a little bit of like fear and anxiety with post healing, probably because of my post healing with Bailey after her the C-section. So I have a little bit of anxiety there, but I'm happy with with where it's going. So that's my update on my uterus. It's gone. She gone. Oh, I can say this too. A typical uterus is about 45 to 60 grams. Mine was 355 grams.
Yeah.
She was a biggins. She's a big girl. It's because there was a gigantic fibroid inside of there causing a lot of havoc. So it's probably this big. If you guys can see Happy. He is gigantic and he's living his best life right now. So any updates on you? What's going on?
I don't know. Any updates on me?
I don't know. Summer's almost here, so you get a little bit of reprieve.
Yeah. I mean, we're still in, just got some more paperwork that we just finished up for more construction on the house. So.
Oh, that's right. Tell us about that a little bit. What are you doing?
So about 7 years ago, we bought a fixer-upper. Joe loved that fixer-upper. It was a fixer-upper. And
an old farmhouse.
Yeah, it's over 100 years old, and we just focus on the inside. And we still have a lot to do on the inside, but we focus mostly on the inside. And now this year, we're actually going to be able to get new siding, windows, and rebuild the addition, like the mudroom that we have. And so that'll be a lovely change. A long waiting, it feels like. And yeah, so.
Has it really been 7 years?
It'll be 7 years next month. Yeah.
Wow.
Actually,
so
yeah, May 1st.
Yeah, that's wild. I feel like it's only been like 4 years that you've been there, but it's only.
I know.
But for us, it's been 4 years here in this house. Yeah.
I do feel like it went really fast, but at the same time, I look at it and I'm like, wow, it took us 7 years to get to this point.
I mean, when we were hoping to get it in a very small amount of time.
We did. Like, well, we burnt ourselves out. Like, we did a lot.
Yeah,
and then
that'll happen.
We did, like during the COVID shutdown time, we did some more because that's what people did.
Yeah.
They just redid their house. And then we were just like done. We were so tired.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do hardly anything. Heck, we didn't even want to mow the lawn. You know, it's like we just did not want to do anything.
We're looking for a lawnmower right now, and that's
we
just
are too.
We want a rider.
See, I think we're gonna go back to just staying with the pusher.
No, I want to get it done in a half hour instead of an hour and a half.
Listen, I watched this documentary about Italy, and it was saying like a big thing of longevity. Is that the right word? Longevity is movement. And I was like, well, maybe if I get the
pickleball.
Yeah, well,
it's good for your brain too.
It is. But then I'm like, oh, if I just keep doing some of my housework the old-fashioned way, minus the dishes and the laundry, I guess. I ain't hand washing that crap. I've done that.
You have done it. Yeah.
Been there. Not doing that. Yeah, so I'm like, why not the lawn? You know? But we did look into the riding lawnmower, and we were like, oh, Liam will have fun on that. But then I was like, just get a push. Like, we'll be fine.
Yeah, no, our yard is not very large, but it's like, but it's not fun to push mow because it's kind of lumpy. And
ours is definitely lumpy.
You know, there's a hill that a small incline enough to where it's annoying to mow. So it would be nice just to be able to get it done.
You know whose lawn's really scary to mow? Papa's.
Oh yeah, because of the big hill.
It's a huge hill. Even with a rider, I'm thinking I'm gonna flip over and die.
You have to go up and down. You can't go sideways because then you'll like tip.
You'll roll.
But if you go up and down, you'll be fine. Just takes a little. You gotta go to the rabbit when you get to the bottom of the hill when you're driving up it.
Hook that thing and go back up.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that part scared me. I think I gave it to you for a little bit and I was like, it just seems like a cliff to me. And I just got too scared.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
I ain't afraid. I'm gonna do it. So
that's about it.
Well, and I will say, nice segue is I do like mowing. It's good. For me, push mowing has been very good for my mental health.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
May is mental health awareness.
Yep.
Awareness month. And so
I think I should double check that, but I want to say it is.
We're going to say it is over here.
It is now.
And yes, there's a Mother's Day. So, and it's also Tourette's awareness. And so
it is May.
Yep. So we're going to be talking because we understand both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Both in mental health and in Tourette's. So, we don't have Tourette's, but your son, your son was diagnosed, and so we'll get into that.
We'll get into
more
that
later.
More with him.
And I think he'll be our on our part 2. We're gonna bring him in and talk to him a little bit about it. He's 14, and so I just want to say too, like, we are not professionals in this, but we can definitely relate and we can tell our stories. And so I will probably, whatever we discuss, I just want to maybe put like a little bit of a trigger warning, because sometimes when you're going through like the depths of your mental, like depression, all that stuff, when you're going through it and you're hearing other people's stories, it's not always helpful. So if you need to skip through, but really it's not just to tell like the horror stories or whatever, it's really to show like how much, like, through community, through time spent with the word, in the Word and with the Lord, and even medication. Some people have, gone down that route along with counseling and all of that. How much there is hope on the other side, and so I know it doesn't always feel like that in the moment, but I can, like, just trust us that there is hope on the other side. Yeah. So, we'll start with you, Ashley, just because you started experiencing it before I did, and I did not understand it. I was really like, could not wrap my brain around why you were going through what you were going through. Yeah. Because when I was pregnant with my girls, my first 2 girls, I did not experience really barely even any blues, like maybe a little bit of baby blues, but none of what you were going through. Yeah. Not yet. Yeah. And so walk us through that a little bit, is what you're comfortable with.
So my story is like, I look back and I'm like, oh, I've probably been through depression in my high school years and everything like that. And those compared to like what I went through with postpartum was like just a scratch on the surface. But the postpartum, it was like, with Liam, everything was great. The pregnancy, the healing, everything afterwards, it was just like, that stuff was all great when it came to my mental health side of things. When it came to Lainey, it was like, she was born, everything was great. And then I want to say it was like 6 weeks after she was born, it was very out of nowhere. I was sitting on the couch and I was holding her, and Liam was like just doing his little dance thing that Liam does. And he was about 3 years old. And I just had this thought process in my head that I didn't want to live anymore. And it was just not like me. It was very out of like, I caught it to where it was like, what the heck is this? Like, what just came through my head? And it was like this very deep thought. And so it was just really weird. And I called Matt that day and said, something's wrong. You need to come home. And he couldn't understand either, because Matt's very level, like emotion wise, like rarely does he get like anxiety and stuff. And at this point, he really didn't experience any of it.
Yeah, I think he has probably now, but not.
Yeah.
Not
so
then.
when he was at that time, he's never experienced anything like that. So he didn't understand those emotions or way of thinking or anything. And so he got home. It was just a lot of like war in my brain where it was like, I didn't like myself. I didn't think I was deserving of anything. I didn't think, sorry, I'm getting emotional. I didn't think I was going to be like, my kids didn't deserve me as a mom. And that was hard because it's like, I love to be a mom. And it was like the weirdest thing for my brain to process that.
Yeah.
And so we called mom and had her come, and she stayed with me. And we had to have, like, I wanted people around me. I did not want to be by myself. I did not want
you don't
to
trust
like
yourself.
No, right. I needed a babysitter.
Yep.
And that's like, I'm proud of myself for doing that, for like acknowledging that. But I would have you with me during the day because you lived right upstairs in the apartment there. And then while Matt was at work, and then Dad would also come, and you guys would switch off for a couple days. I ended up going to the doctors and said like, hey, I'm like experiencing this. It's not like me. I don't get it. I never had this with my other pregnancy or anything.
Which, by the way, you're terrified to tell your doctor.
Yes.
It is.
Because you think you're going to be...
you think they're going to take your
kids
away. Or
yep.
think that you're unstable and you're going to be it is a wild thing to walk through.
Yes.
That didn't happen, just so you guys know.
And this doctor, he was my OB that I went and saw, and he was amazing. Like, he was so sweet and so gentle. And he was just like, okay, let's get you some help. Like, they started me on a medication just to get the edge off.
Yeah.
And I don't remember. I want to say it was like a Xanax. It might have not have been that, but it might have been in that area. And it was just enough to get the edge off. But it was also like I had to pump and dump. And that's like... Yeah. That alone was stressful because I'm like, but I want to do this. And it was just super stressful to have to be like, I have to, throw out what I'm working hard on and what I really want to stick to and everything. But then I went to go see like a psychologist to just make sure like, all of that was fine. And they were going to put me on a medication or something. But then it was like, I would say, so that started at 6 weeks. And then a few weeks later, I ended up going with mom, maybe not even that far out. Maybe a week or two later, I ended up going with mom with the kids down to visit just to be, over there or something. And I just started feeling way better. Like just had to get out, had to, do all that. And then Matt met me down there, and then I came home and everything. And it was like, things were better. But it was like such a dark, dark pit during that time. And then things started getting better. And I ended up still seeing my doctor, still checking out some meds, kind of stuff and everything, and just going through the waves. And then it wasn't until like a year or two later where like it hit again.
Yep. Because I was gonna say that there's more to this. Because you've battled
because it was just so up and down. And so so that one was like I would say the short lived but very intense time. And then I ended up the next big wave started when Liam, he started school. And we started noticing these tics that were happening with him. And like he was blinking really weird. So we're like, well, what is this? So I remember being like, oh, it's probably just his hair's getting longer. It's probably getting in his eyes. And he's just getting frustrated with it. So we went ahead and got his haircut thinking like, oh, that's probably it.
I mean, you also got his tonsils taken out thinking,
he was like, when you go and like in Wizard of Oz and they restuff.
Yeah.
They restuff the scarecrow. I just felt like I'm restuffing this kid right now. Like, he's got to get all his straw put back in kind of thing. Like we were just going through every single thing. And so the blinking was happening. And then all of a sudden he would sit on the couch and I for like you and I would hear him all the time. All of a sudden he'd be like, I'm like, what is that?
Well,
You know,
and
like,
it
what's
wasn't
going
so much like
on?
like he's just being a little boy. It was like
Right.
very repetition. Like, so
Yes.
like I had noticed when he was little, he would have to have things just right. And also like he would drive the car up to a certain point and he'd have to
Yes.
push out his sleeve, wipe his nose.
There's always a
There's
pattern.
always a pattern in things. And I
Yes.
just thought like, I mean, he's a brilliant kid. He's so smart. And he was when he was little. Like, I feel like he could read at 3. Like, he's so smart.
He was, yeah.
And, but it was, there are little things because when you spend time with him, you see the patterns.
Yeah.
And so that's when, I was like, okay, there might be something here.
There's something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, there was that stuff. And then his teacher, his 4K teacher and his kindergarten teacher, they were both so amazing at communicating all these things that they've noticed about him, because I would communicate as well, where it's like, hey, if you guys notice this, because, you know, especially in kindergarten, you're there all day.
Yeah.
So you're co-parenting. I don't care what anyone says. You co-parent with your teachers. So you need to make a good communication with your teachers because they're with your children more than you are. Mm-hmm. And so we had a great relationship. We bridged everything, and we ended up, you know, just trying to figure things out. We took him to his doctor multiple times, and this doctor was like, oh, it's just a boy thing. It's just a boy thing.
I mean,
over and over and over again. It's just a boy thing. Or some of it was like, oh, he's got to have some Miralax or something. Like they would just pump him with all kinds of stuff. And I was just like at my wit's end at one point, and contacted a different doctor. And that doctor said, okay, let's get him evaluated. So we got him evaluated, and we took him through that process. And that kind of was just like a worry thing, because as a parent, and they were great, but as a parent, they're going over to like test your child, you know, like, but they do it through fun and games and everything. So that's really cool that they do it that way. But I'm here with Lainey, who's still in an infant car seat. So she's still very little. And so,
and still at that point, battling
so this is within less than a year, and I'm still battling through all of my depression and stuff. And I'm sitting there with her in a car seat, me filling out paperwork and everything. And of course, horror stories are coming through my mind because I'm a parent. Yes. And so like part of my depression and anxiety is paranoia. Oh. It's a huge part, actually. It's not just a part. It's a massive part. My family has to like calm me down. I now have to like edit what I watch, what I do. You know what I mean? Like all of these things, because I get so paranoid and my brain goes into this lock moment where it's like, I can't get it to shut off. And so they ended up working with him, and we got a diagnosis that at that point of sensory processing disorder. You know, like that was mostly like the fine motor skills that they caught. It wasn't anything with the tics or anything yet. And we moved on. So we got a hold of, you know, like the OT in the school and everything, and they worked with him, and that went really well. And he just needed more breaks because he was overstimulated. So because he would shut everything down at school and try and like do his best and behave. And then he would get home and he would scream. Unravel. And I mean, scream and cry for an hour. And we're like, what happened? We don't even know. And so we went through that process of like trying to figure that out.
Sensory processing.
Yep. And we found out he was so suppressed, you know, like he needed ways to do things.
Keeping everything together here for 8+ hours, and then at home just
let it out.
Yeah.
And so we had to do a lot of like homework on that.
A lot of convincing too, because a lot of the teachers would be like, which makes sense, you know, it's nothing bad on them. It's just like, they're like, we don't get it. He's great here. Yep. Then you're like, actually though, like he's like, what's going on, you know, from here to here. Yeah. It was a lot of convincing.
Yes. Yeah. And so we just did our own research, and I'm huge on research and advocating and everything like that. And also being very respectful towards like teachers and everything too, because they're trying to understand what you're trying to understand because they don't see it all the time. But yet, you know, as a parent, you're like, what do you mean you don't see it? Like, this is what we see all the time. And I've learned that like he really wasn't like that throughout the day. And then he ended up like he felt comfortable enough at home to let it out.
Yeah.
And so we did like sensory stuff. We did a lot of like brushing the skin and everything. That was amazing. We did a lot of like joint impressions and everything just to bring him back. And his sensory was a lot of like the wind and anything like a flag.
I had to like put my wind chimes down.
Yes.
Even now, like I know it doesn't make him, you know, it makes him feel uncomfortable. So he's getting better, but like if he would see a swing moving in the wind, that was really hard.
I remember we used to actually take our swings down because the movement of that would like make him, you know, anxious. And he can explain a lot more when we have him here on what that felt like on his end. But from like what we saw, he was just like very anxious and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And, so the key to us going through that was, we got to a point where it's like, I will go into your world, but you need to come into ours because the world is not going to stop for you. The neighbors are not going to put their flags down every single time the wind blows because you're uncomfortable. So what we would do is we'd be like, okay, well, so our neighbor's flag is bugging you. All right, let's go on the other side of the house.
Right.
And then when you're able to like regulate,
figure it out,
you can come back and see how you feel. And that worked so well with him where it's like you just take your break and then come back and see how you
like
feel.
Giving him a choice.
Yeah.
Like you actually have a choice in this. Like not necessarily like you can't, I don't want to sound like you basically like there are times where you can't help but to feel a certain way, but you're teaching him in the midst of it that you have a choice to maybe you can't help it, but you can choose to go somewhere else and like try to teach him how to, you know, I always say my own mental battles, like talk myself off the ledge. Like, there's a lot of power in words and saying you know, doing things too.
But we did that with him, and that's a topic that we can finish more with him, but to get to the point of, so I was doing way better in my anxiety and depression at that point. And
you think it's because you were distracted? Or maybe
I think it was just like I was distracted. I was doing better, but it wasn't like completely gone or anything like that. I think it was because I had so much, and maybe I didn't have time to think of myself in that area because it's like I had so much to do with baby still, and then Liam's situations, and then Matt's obviously at work doing his thing. So just trying to juggle it all, and I don't think it hit until later. And then it was, what was it? I ended up, well, then he was doing the blinking and the what's that thing called? Throat clearing, the
the vocal tics.
The vocal tics were happening, so we had to go and get that checked out. He ended up getting his tonsils out because they thought it was that. That was not it, because once his throat felt better and everything, it went right back into so we ended up seeing his doctor again afterwards and said, like, this is what's happening. Like, we're still struggling with this. And he took down the notes and he was like, have you ever heard of Tourette syndrome? And I was like, yeah. Like, I didn't process it. Like, I was just in a haze. And then I got home and I'm calling Matt on the phone on my way home. And I'm just like, so the doctors were thinking Tourette syndrome, and Matt panicked. That was the first time I've ever seen or heard him panic because he was so nervous of what his life was going to be like with others, where it's like he's going to be made fun of, he's going to be like treated differently and everything like that. And so he was going into panic mode because he's seen that with someone else growing up. And I got upset because it was just like I was expecting a different reaction from Matt. I wanted to like be comforted, I think. And instead I didn't get that. So I got really upset. And I called mom and I'm like, this is what I'm going through and everything. And it ended up like I calmed down and everything. But a lot of this ended up with me doing a lot of the work. And that was only because to me, I didn't think it was something that Matt needed to miss work. I'm like, you just go to work. I got this and everything. And then little did I know how much it really hit me until we had to go in for an MRI, I believe it was. They had to do some stuff with that to make sure there was nothing else going on in there neurologically and everything. So they were checking his brain and everything to make sure it was still okay. And you can't, according to what they said, they're like, Tourette's is a symptom-based diagnosis. Right. You can't get scans and stuff too. Right. So they were like,
they say that it's not even genetic.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which to me is wild.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know. Yeah. And so it wasn't until, and I was doing much better on my depression and anxiety at that point, but it wasn't until we went in for his scan that it hit me, because I was at the children's hospital and I just went through panic mode. I'm sitting there crying, thinking like, all these kiddos here going through all these things, and it just like got to my core, and I just got like, I lost it. And so not since then, but that's when it started a new wave of like very bad anxiety and depression. And then we moved to Milton. I don't know if I should say that, but then we moved, and we ended up, I was still going through it really bad. I was now on a different medication.
Yeah.
And my psychologist at the time was like, oh, how are you sleeping? I'm like, oh, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. Like, I don't like to sleep. I hate sleep. Never have liked it, even as a newborn. I just had this conversation with mom.
Yeah.
I was like, I know I wasn't a good sleeper, but how bad was I? And I was like the worst of all of them. All the kids she had.
I was a good sleeper. I was not a good napper. I didn't like to take
naps.
I
didn't like any of it.
Yeah, because I hated missing out on things. Like, I just always wanted to be awake.
Mm-hmm.
And mom says I was really good, but I always felt like I don't know.
I don't like sleep now, and I didn't like it then.
I struggle with sleep. I'm a night owl and a morning person.
Same, I'm a morning person though.
Yeah, I'm both.
But I think it's because I wake up like a lot. And it's like, that's why I'm not a morning person, because I'm like, oh, why not another hour or two? I need it.
Yeah.
But so she gave me this medication that was supposed to be helping me with my anxiety, but also helping me sleep. So every time I would go in there for an update, she'd be like, how you sleeping? And I'm like, oh, I'm not. So she would up it, and she would just keep upping it. And it was just like, this stuff ain't working. Like, I feel more anxious than I've ever felt. And I am just a hot mess, and I'm not sleeping. Like, what the heck? Yeah. So I kept taking it because that's what I was told to do. And so we were going to church, and church was doing like these group things at night, the journey stuff, the program. And I already did it once before, and I was like, oh, it's been a few years. Let me try it again. I'm in a different area of my life and everything. So I went to that, and I don't remember even going through it twice, a whole lot of the video stuff that they did and the teachings. But what I remember this time around that was like amazing was my support group. And we just hung on to each other. We did life outside of the group. We did like, we were moms and everything. And we did mom groups where in the mornings we would go over to someone's house with our kids, and we would just hang out and do life together. And it was that group that really broke a lot of my anxiety, like with their support. And it was literally like one day I woke up, went to one of the mom group days, and then it was a sudden healing. And this conversation had happened, and it was like a friend was like, I just wanted to throw the word comparison out at you. And I was like, what? Like, okay. And then she was like, I just want you to understand the word comparison. And I took it as like, well, a lot of my anxiety is because I do compare myself. I compare myself as a mom, as a wife, as a sibling, as a daughter. And it's like, there's a lot of pressure in that because I'm now looking at it like, well, am I going to be like this person? Do I want to be like this person? You know what I mean? So, and a lot of people pleasing.
Well, and comparison is a thief of joy.
Yes.
And so it really does. It just drains your joy.
Mm-hmm.
Because all you're thinking about is what you don't have, is what you're lacking, and where you could be better. And it's just like, it's exhausting.
It is. It takes everything out of you. And so I ended up, because I didn't like the meds and stuff, I ended up weaning myself off of them and ended up just clinging to the Lord through all of that. And I had years of like no anxiety and no depression, and it was like absolutely amazing. And then it was like, I still get it. This year's probably been the hardest, over the past like 7 years or so.
Do you feel stronger through each battle though? Like, do you feel like this is a battleground that I'm used to, that I'm familiar with, and these are the tools that I've used?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think through the really big lows and the very big highs and stuff, I have learned how to equip myself.
Right.
And it's with like, I'm very strong on having your go-to safe people. And I'm very huge on worship music. Like, that has been a very big, I don't even want to call it a distraction, but it does. Like, it really distracts me from like my way of thinking. Like, it changes the way that I think. Yeah. And it reminds, because I am such a visual music driven person, that when I have music, like, music to me is like a therapy session. It's like kind of like a journal that's being written for me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, Matt and I have had that conversation where it's like, he says like, oh, you can learn the guitar so quickly because he's tried teaching me. But it's like, I purposely don't want to learn an instrument, because once I learn that, I feel like I'm going to listen to music differently, because it's going to be more of a technique issue than an escape issue. It's like, I love that I can escape into it. And so I am just very cautious on that.
Yeah.
And that's just my story in that one. But I think the music and the support group, but obviously prayer is a big one. And I think surrounding yourself with people who uplift you is very, very important.
Yeah.
And they see like, okay, I'm struggling. I don't need to even talk with you, but I can sit with you.
Right.
I think just sitting with people is very important. And then I think knowing your worth, like, that's huge, where it's like, okay, no, my worth is
like, you are wanted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not going back to that. Like, I'm not going back to that pit. I've been there. I don't like it. It tastes gross. It sits gross. It's nasty. And so I fight it. And also knowing history of our family with the depression, anxiety, and mental health that they all had, it's just like, I see this generation issue.
Yeah.
And it's like, I really want to fight to make it easier for my kids.
Yeah.
I will take that battle, and I will like face that battle. And it's like David and Goliath kind of situation. And it's like, I'm going to throw my sling, and that giant's going down, and I'm going to take it down, and I'm going to do it for my kid. And I'm not saying my kid's not ever going to experience it, because Liam and I have had conversations, and he has given me permission to like share that, his struggle when he gets anxious and worried and goes through a spout or anything like that. He will go, and he knows Mom has been through this. Like, we had real conversations, and he's like, Mom, I feel this way. I'm like, okay, here, we're going to battle up. We're putting our armor on. Like, let's talk about this. And so that has helped him, because I want to make it easier for him, instead of just being like, oh, no. Like, you don't need to think that way. You don't need to do that. It's like, well, why do you think that way? You know, what makes you think that way? Or, and if he's just like, I don't know. I'm like, oh, I totally understand. I get that too. It's like, sometimes I don't know why I'm sad. And sometimes it's a hormone issue. And sometimes it's just like
Well, and I will say
avoid.
learning about your body and learning about, like, I didn't realize that, like, during my period, I there's a thing called
PMSDD or something like that.
And there's also one, I think, with a P for, like, paranoia.
Yep.
And so I'll kind of tell very quickly. So growing up, I definitely think that I battled.
PMDD.
Yeah, PMDD. So I definitely battled with anxiety growing up. I had a lot of stomach aches. When I would go to school, I would be really, really sick because I had friends that I loved a lot, but I feel like they weren't always nice to me, and you just didn't know if they were going to be nice to you that day.
Right.
And so I just really battled with knowing what kind of day I was going to have in front of me. And so I would always go to school with a stomach ache, not knowing it was anxiety. Now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, this girl, she was riddled with anxiety. But I'm also pretty good at managing it. Like, I would talk myself off the ledge. It'd be fine, whatever. So I've always been kind of like a golden retriever, just like, everything's fine. Everything's great. Like, kick me, but it's fine. I'll get up and whatever, forgive you. And just very, very positive person. And I feel like, probably I feel like I can be a pretty brave person. But so when I had Scarlett and when I had Ellie, or Scar and Bay, everything was fine. Everything was great. I mean, I think I was a little sad just because, like, you know, you're going through the transition from not having a kid to having a kid, and not very quickly being able to just get up and go and hang out with your friends. Like, just stuff like that. But nothing like I experienced with Ellie. So mine wasn't postpartum. It was prepartum. It was like, that's what I call it. It was like during my pregnancy. And so this is where I remember, like, when you were going through your stuff, I immediately was like, I will never ever, because I don't feel like I was, like, necessarily judgy towards you. I was just really not understanding. Like, maybe it felt, maybe it could seem that I was judging you, but it was more like, I thought that the only way that you are dealing with depression or anxiety is situational. Like, I'm thinking, your life is great.
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong? Like, you have an amazing husband. You have a great job. You have amazing kids. Like, what could you be sad about? So it's just like, because I didn't understand. And then I went through psychosis with Ellie, and I couldn't differentiate, like, reality with my
what your brain is thinking.
Fantasy.
Yeah, that's what mine was.
Like, I had really battled with feeling the urge to hurt my child. Not because I was pregnant with Ellie, so it was and I don't like to usually specifically say who it is, because I just don't want my kids to grow up being like, why was it me? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know why, because my kids were great kids. It wasn't like I was overwhelmed. This is what's so weird about it, is that, like, I was so deeply grounded in the Lord. I was in his word, and it just, like, one day, just like, something happened. And I will also say this does not mean it will be you. Just because I went through this and you went through this. Yeah. It's okay if you don't go through this. I don't want you sitting there pregnant or, you know, postpartum and feeling like this is going to be me. That, please understand that this does not have to be you. This is just what I went through. And so I'm going to release you from that, because I just feel like that's something that, like, I think if you are already having anxiety, you're like, oh my gosh, what if this happens to me? It doesn't have to. So that kind of scared me, like, because I didn't want to hurt my child. I didn't want to do any of that. Yeah. But it just felt like I already had, like, my brain couldn't figure out like, I already felt like the cops are coming. Something already happened. But then I would, like, kind of, like, snap out of it and be like, nothing's happened. It was really weird. And I unless you've gone through it, you'll probably just think, whatever. But like, I just couldn't, or like I wasn't sleeping. Like I would watch. So Joe would have to like wake up early in the morning at 3 a.m. And for some reason, I would have to like, I was afraid that from our front doorstep to his car, he was going to get assassinated. Don't know why. So I would make sure I would watch out the window and walk, like make sure he got to his car safe, because I thought that he was going to be like just killed. I don't know where this was coming from, but I wasn't sleeping either because I was worried about him. You know, you're pregnant, so you're already having a hard time sleeping. So, and then you're dealing with all these whatever. But anyway, and then you're afraid to tell anyone.
Yeah.
Because you're afraid, because there is this human part of you that's like, I don't want my kids taken away. I do love my kids. I do want to be a mom. But, sorry, I have a cat piece here all over me. I want to be a mom, but I felt like they were so much better off with a different mom. So that's where my brain would like fight through like all of these things or whatever. So I just knew that I had to get, so this is where Ashley and our stories are a little different, but it's totally fine. I did not want to go on medication. That was something I never like.
I didn't either, but I was
right.
Just like,
you were at the point.
I'm going to try.
I will say there was a point where I was like, I would rather, if medication will help, I will do that before I hurt myself. Because I was at the point now where I was like, I would rather hurt myself than hurt my children. And so, but that is just my own conviction. Please hear me when I say, I'm not telling you not to do that. I'm just telling you that it was my own conviction.
This is your story.
My story.
Yeah, this is your story.
So I did not take any medication. But I knew that if I was going to fight through this, I would have to fight alongside, like Jesus would have to be alongside me, before me, beside me, behind me, and trust that he was there, because I'll be honest, I did not feel like God was there in the moment.
Yeah.
I felt like the way that I explained it to people was like, I don't feel God. I just feel like I'm in a boat and I know that there's an anchor that's holding me, but I can't see it. Like the water is so murky that I cannot see the anchor. And so like, but just knowing and having the knowledge that like, this is where I say like my faith in the Lord goes so much deeper than just feeling him. Like if we're always like, oh, did you feel like it is, knowledge is also very, very important, because you need both, in my opinion. I think you need to experience the Lord in such a beautiful way, but also to know, like to be still and know that he is God through not just your experiences, but just through what scripture says and having faith. So I just knew there was a God. I knew that he is there. I knew that Jesus loved me and he is for me. But what do I do when I'm dealing with these? Like I would have anxiety attacks where I felt like I was physically being choked and I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
those
it was
too.
So wild.
I would
didn't even know what to do with it.
Demonic dreams.
Yeah, it was just like,
oh, they were awful.
So weird. Also, I do think a lot of this was hormonal. A lot of it was hormonal. But I just didn't know what to do. So I had people stay with me. Yep. Like babysit me, like you said. April would stay with me overnight because Joe had to leave so early in the morning. I just didn't want to be alone with my kids. So I will say here are some, I read a book called What Women Fear. That book has really helped me in a big way. In the beginning of the book, it talks about how, if you notice in the garden with Adam and Eve, Satan never told them to eat from the tree.
There's trickery in there.
He planted doubt. That's what he did. He said, are you sure that's what God said? Yeah. Are you sure that blah, blah, blah? And that's what did it, was doubt. And so I was like, okay, what am I doubting here? Yeah. You know, like, am I doubting that God is good? Am I doubting that he is for me? Am I doubting that he has created me to be a mom to these babies? Like, I had to really like figure out how Satan weaseled his way into my mind, my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so when I would have like, also being vulnerable with your husband is hard to do in these moments because you don't want to scare him. Like I didn't want to scare Joe with my like suicidal thoughts or whatever. And so it would be really hard for me to be vulnerable with him about it. So I did talk to him eventually about it, but I think I talked to other people first.
I used to be scared to tell Matt things because I thought he would just be like, well, you're crazy.
Right. Which is like a word that I just struggle with because I'm like, no, that's the last thing I want to like be told or feel because I don't know. But
it's like, I already feel crazy. Please don't confirm it.
Yeah. And you're just trying to do your best. You're just trying to wake up and survive the day, survive these thoughts, survive, and so you're exhausted. And then you're like, I was pregnant during the time. So then I'm like, trying to think of her and I'm just like, you know what, Lord, like I believe that this baby has a purpose like way bigger than I could ever think or imagine, which is why we really loved the name Elliot because Ellie is like it the root its derivative or whatever is for Eleanor or I think it's Eleanor or Elaine, which it means bright shining light. And I was in such a dark
what Lainey is.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and we both went through such similar
Yes. Yeah. And so and then I remember telling Joe that I was really struggling and I really wanted to go, like I thought maybe I should go on medication. And Joe was like, I'm going to, actually what I told Joe was if I say that I want it, don't tell me that I can. Just try to, have me push through, which is putting him in a really terrible spot. I realized like that's not okay. But I remember like having Joe hold me during one of my like anxiety episodes. And I remember like telling him like I think I might have to go on medication. And I just remember Joe saying, can you just 10 more days? And so Ellie was born.
Yeah.
He's like, just 10 more days. And I was like, fine, we can do 10 more days. And I'm not kidding. On the 10th day, it was like
a release.
I don't even know how to explain it. Like the cloud that was over my head was gone. I was like back. So like I'm pretty sarcastic and quirky. And I remember being like really sarcastic to Joe and not feeling guilty about it. Cause I would.
Oh, you would eggshell every conversation.
Yes. And I remember like saying
you
something
would feel
snarky.
so bad. Yeah. You'd be like, oh my gosh.
And then I was like, oh, I'm back. Like, and it just felt so good to, and I think too, there are some like flare-ups that will happen. I'll say this too, just because I feel like I need to. My kids are safe. They're always safe. Like everything's fine. That I have not had those,
right.
Since then, I think, I will say, but there's some flare-ups of like anxiety attacks and stuff like that.
Paranoia kind of stuff.
Afterward.
Mine always came back as like paranoia in a sense of like, and it's such a silly thing where it's like, oh my gosh, there's an article about rabies.
Right. And now you're like, I need to vaccinate everybody.
Everyone.
Yes.
We're checking.
I did the same thing about the rabies. I was like texting Joe and I was like, Joe, we need to get these cats vaccinated. There's rabies in Rock County.
Are we updated?
I mean,
but that's like where I had to like. I usually
it's a little bit of hypochondria.
I do. I've had it since I was
you were little.
Bitty.
You were a lot.
Yes.
Well, you're
and
worse
Mom
than me.
Thinks she knows like what could have triggered that because there was trauma as a kid
with Grandma Sandy.
Yeah. I was too scared to go get my blood checked. From the story I remember, I was very little.
I remember.
So Grandma Sandy went with,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, I'll get my blood checked too. So we both got it done together. And Mom even says I should never have done that because
Mm-hmm.
I ended up fine and she came back with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up passing away from it and everything. But since I was itty bitty, I was scared of everything.
Yeah.
Like everything. I still am. Like I'm scared of a lot of stuff. There's a certain point though where I'm just like, excuse me, you better back
it's like,
down.
I don't have time for this.
Like
now it's like when I can feel like the flare ups a little bit of
I talk to it.
Now
I'm like, you can
I ain't
go
got
away
time
now.
for you. I'm not doing this. Get thee behind me. Like I am done.
Not today, Satan.
Yep. Like
back
we're not
off.
doing this. And I had a very small group of people in my life because I was so scared to talk about things because I was afraid that there were people I just didn't know I could trust.
Yeah.
But there were a very small group of people that I could. And I was so grateful for them because I think that they were not just like an army for me, but they prayed for me. They prayed for Ellie, my girls, for Joe. And so is he dreaming?
Sorry,
big
her
boy.
dog's over there dreaming, and it looks so
His
funny.
snout is just
He's
shaking.
Like, I can't do it.
So, and I'm so grateful that I'm on the other side. I'm so grateful that I never gave into any of my intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I had a community for those things. And man, I'm so glad I'm here. I'm so glad because I love my life. I love watching my kids grow up.
It's been a battle. It's been a battle, but it has been such an amazing victory at the same time.
Yeah.
And the Lord's really shown me a lot of like the beauty out of ashes kind of moments, you know.
Oh my gosh.
And it's been like a very beautiful journey, if that makes sense.
It's weird.
I will say things did make sense even more because like a year ago, I had a friend that had suddenly died. And I was going through a really hard time grieving that. And I still catch myself really struggling with some of the grieving of that too. And I went to go see a doctor about it because they're like, you know, friends are like, you should probably go see a counselor or something, you know, get through this and everything. And so I did. And we were talking about medication again. And I told her the story about what happened with the last medication. So every time that doctor like upped it and it would get worse and worse, like my anxiety and my sleep was still really bad. Well, this new doctor was like, well, let's try the DNA testing so what they do is they take your DNA and then they run it through a system and it tells you what medication works good, what medication could be okay, and what medication you should never take. And so when we ran that, there was only like 4 medications that worked for my body.
Okay.
Out of all the medications. And the one that wasn't going to work on my body was one that doctor kept upping.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
I was like, it was that one. And so this new doctor was like, that medication you took should never have been in your body. I was like, well, that makes sense now. Good thing I took myself off because she just kept upping that sucker. And I'm just like, why am I, like, I would be in fetal position in my living room crying for Jesus just to take it. I'm like, take it. I don't like it. Like, it was like the craziest, darkest ride I've ever been on.
Yeah. I always say, I was just talking to Taylor about this tonight when I went out with her. I was like, I'd never wish this on my worst enemy.
No.
Never. Like, it is.
Actually, I'm the complete opposite where it's like, I want to hug you.
Yeah. Like,
so bad.
Like, it is so. And I think too, you know, I was searching like, okay, Lord, what is the good that has come out of this? You know, because you're just wondering, like, what was this all for?
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm not sure. Again, a lot of it could have been hormones and just figuring this out. But I do trust that the Lord can use this for something really beautiful, to tell women that they're not alone, to tell my girls. And I pray that my girls don't have to walk through this.
Yeah.
But that I can be there for them and I can say, like, I completely understand what you're going through now. And so just knowing that, like, you're not alone, and that you have some pretty just find some pretty awesome people that you trust around you to help hold your arms up. Like Moses had to, you know, he had his sword up and he had to have his friends come and hold his arms up because they were tired. And it's like, I had friends that would come and hold my arms up.
Well, think about the times in the Bible, like when you're alone, they weren't good. They weren't good moments in the Bible. It was always
Satan wants you isolated. He wants you to be alone. He wants you to do all of this alone.
Which is why that whole like doubting, it's like, are you sure you can trust this person? Are you sure you can open up? Are you sure about that?
Say something.
Yep.
Say something.
Say something.
And get
your
the help
people
that you need.
They have phone numbers. You know, it's like reach out, message someone, call someone, go to their house. You know, it's very important to like have your people. Like we were designed to have each other.
Yeah.
You know, like look at Adam had Eve. Like it was designed to be that way.
Yes, we need each other. So and man, I'm just so glad, like I said, that I'm here, and I'm glad that I'm on the other side. I pray that I never ever have to experience that again. And so but I think that's it. We're gonna wrap up. Do you want to pray?
Wrap up.
You want me to pray? What do you want?
Yeah, pray.
You want me to pray?
You can pray.
Okay.
I'm so concentrated on my eyes right now because my contacts are so dry.
Dude,
and
dry,
the cat hair is like...
I'm sorry. Okay, I'll pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much that you are the King of Kings and the Prince of Peace. We are so grateful that you have helped us. You have come before us, behind us and beside us. And we pray for all of the women and the men who are struggling in these moments right now, that you just come in and just honestly take it away. Take away those thoughts. Take away, just protect them, guide them, love them. Your perfect love casts out all fear. And so, God, we just ask for your perfect love. Show them your love, and that you can be a beacon of light through the darkness, Lord. We give you all the praise in your most precious name. Amen.
Amen. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to Real as Possible. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the laughs with someone who needs it. See you next time.